I was standing at the sink, my coffee already cold, when I noticed it. The garage door wide open. Sunlight spilled across the driveway, but all I could see was the empty darkness inside. For 20 years, Elliot never once left that door open. Not during storms, not when he was sick, not even when he forgot where he put his keys. That door was sacred to him, closed always. I set the mug down without drinking, walked slowly across the yard in my slippers. The grass was damp. April, warm, too warm. The air didn't feel right. My feet hit the concrete and I stopped just short of the threshold. The Shelby was gone. The space where it always sat, the center bay, was just hollow now. That oil stain on the ground, the one Elliot used to scrub and curse at for years, was still there. A dark, irregular shape, like a memory, burned into the floor. I stared at it, as if the car might reappear if I just looked long enough. Then I heard tires on gravel. Brian's car pulled into the driveway, sleek and black and polished. He got out too quickly, like he didn't want me to have time to speak first. His shoulders were already hunched. "Mom," he started, avoiding my eyes. "I need to explain. Where's the car, Brian?" He swallowed. "I sold it." I blinked slow and long. "You what?" I sold the Shelby. "Yesterday. Vanessa's Paris trip. It's for work, she's got important people to meet, and we needed the funds." "How much?" $15,000. "It's more than fair for something that old." $15,000. I turned around and walked back into the garage. The silence was different in there. Bigger, somehow. I didn't cry. I just looked at the floor, the workbench, the empty space. Brian hadn't just sold a car, he'd ripped a promise out of the walls. I crossed the room, reached for the bench, and saw Elliot's red toolbox still in place. His work journal, too, right where he left it. My hand hovered over it before I finally touched the cover. The journal was still on the workbench, right where I'd last seen it. A thin layer of dust clung to the leather cover, catching the light through the small garage window. I brushed it away with my thumb and opened it to the last page Elliot ever wrote. "Can't wait to teach Marin to drive her. Retirement starts next summer." The words hit me like breath caught mid-laugh. He'd been so sure we'd have time. I traced the line of his handwriting, the way his letters leaned forward, impatient, like he was always ready for the next task. His optimism had lived in those pages, ink and grease, marking the years he gave to that car. 20 years of patience, of bolts and polish, and small triumphs after long days at the hospital. I looked around. Everything else was just as he left it. His mug on the shelf, the one with a chipped handle and faded print from the diner where we met. The radio silent, now still tuned to the classic rock station he loved. The scent of that orange hand soap lingered faintly, like he'd only stepped away for a moment. The tools hung in perfect order on the pegboard, outlines drawn behind them in black marker, each one exactly in its place. Only the car was gone. I sat on the stool by the bench and opened the journal again, turning page after page, notes on carburetors, sketches of parts, reminders written in the margins like conversations with himself. Order new filters. Tell Marin about the trip route. His world had been neat, deliberate. He'd built things to last. The air in the garage felt close, heavy. I closed the journal and held it against my chest. I wanted to tell him I'd seen the empty space, that I didn't stop it, that I didn't even yell. That night, I dreamt of him standing in the same garage, wiping his hands on a rag. He didn't look at me when he spoke. His voice was soft, but certain. "Did you check the dash?" The phone rang at 7:03 a.m. I had been awake for hours, sitting at the kitchen table with Elliot's journal still open, rereading the same sentence again and again. I almost didn't answer. The number was unfamiliar, the kind I usually let ring out. But something told me to pick up. "Mrs. Adler," the voice said, rough like he hadn't slept. "My name is Tom Graves. I run Graves Classic Auto over on Eastwick. I I have your husband's car. I sat up straight. The Shelby, yes, ma'am. Your son brought it in 2 days ago, but I think there's something you need to see. Can you come down today? Now, if possible, I was already standing. Text me the address. The drive to the industrial district took less than 20 minutes. I barely remember the traffic lights. The sun had just started warming the concrete buildings, and the air smelled like metal and heat. I pulled up to a long, low shop with polished windows and rows of vintage cars behind a chain-link fence. A man stood outside, watching. Late 60s, graying hair, button-down shirt, tucked into jeans. He looked like someone who'd built his life with his hands. Mrs. Adler, he said, extending a hand. I'm Tom. His grip was firm, but I could feel the tremor in it. Dennis, your husband. He co-signed my first loan. 25 years ago. No one else would take the risk. He barely knew me. He led me inside the garage, walking slowly like he didn't want to startle anything. I've done well since. Built this place, raised a family. All because he believed in me. Then he pulled back the cover. The Shelby gleamed under the lights, untouched, immaculate. The same burgundy paint Elliot had chosen. The chrome details. The leather interior. My knees nearly buckled. I didn't want to give it back, Tom said quietly. But Dennis made me promise. If anything happened to him, I had to call you. There's something inside. He said it was meant for you only. He reached into the dash behind the radio faceplate. Press here, he said. A panel released with a soft click. Inside was a manila folder, a small key, and a sealed envelope with my name in Elliot's handwriting. I broke the seal on the envelope with shaking fingers. The handwriting was Elliot's, careful as ever. The date at the top hit me like cold water, 2 months before he died. Maren, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. You'd have wanted to face it with me, but I needed to protect you until I had something solid. I've been looking into Vanessa for 18 months. Her real name is Vanessa Cortland. She's been married twice before both husbands had aging parents. Both families lost homes, savings, everything. She disappears every time. Changes names. I've found 2 identities already. There may be more. She'll go after the house next. That's her pattern. She'll convince Brian you're forgetting things. Say the stairs are dangerous, that it's time to downsize or consider a facility. Then she'll vanish with the money. I tried confronting her once carefully. She's smarter than I thought. Brian won't believe me without proof. I'm still gathering it, but if you're reading this, it means I didn't finish in time. The key in this envelope opens. Box 713 at First Fidelity. I put something there that will help. Tom knows to call you if anything ever happens to the car. Trust him. Protect yourself. And protect our son. He doesn't see it. He's a victim in this too. I love you. I'm still protecting you. I stared at the page for a long time. The breath had left my body without me noticing. Tom was standing near the hood of the Shelby, hands in his pockets, watching quietly. I held the page up. He knew. He really knew. Tom nodded. He came by a few times those last months. Said he had a feeling about her. Said he didn't want you to be alone with it. I placed the letter back in the folder, then slipped the small key into my coat pocket. I'll take it from here, I said. Tom didn't argue. He just nodded once and walked me to the car. I drove straight to First Fidelity Bank. The vault was quiet, too quiet. The bank manager led me to box 713 and stepped back as I inserted the key. My hands were steady, but only because I hadn't let myself feel anything yet. Inside was a single padded envelope. I opened it carefully, half expecting something smaller, simpler. But what I found were documents, stock certificates, dates from 1994, company name Westfall Tech Solutions. At first, I didn't understand. Then I saw the sticky note in Elliot's handwriting. Invested $5,000. Look at them now. I asked the manager to check the value. She typed quickly, then slowed. Her eyes widened. "Ma'am," she said, "these shares are currently worth over $340,000. I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry. There was another letter inside. Shorter. "This is your safety net. For independence. For control. So no one gets to decide what happens to you but you." I drove home in silence. Documents in my bag. The letter folded in my pocket. At the kitchen table, I took out the names Elliot had listed, the two men from the folder. I called the first number. A man picked up. His voice sounded older than I expected, tired, careful. "This is Maren Adler," I said. "I believe my son is married to a woman who used to go by the name Vanessa Cortland." Long pause. "She made me sell my mother's house," he said finally. "Said we needed the money for a better care facility. 2 weeks later, she was gone. Took everything. My mother died in that place thinking I abandoned her." The second call was shorter. The man's voice clipped, controlled. "She sold my father's auto shop. Told me we'd start over travel. The next morning she was on a plane to Belize with both our accounts emptied." I hung up and sat very still. Vanessa hadn't just fooled Brian. She had rehearsed this. Over dinner, I took out a blank notebook and began to write. Every time she asked about my health. Every time she walked upstairs alone. Every hint of her future plan. If she was staging something, I needed to be ready for opening night. They returned from Paris with glowing skin designer luggage and smiles that felt a little too rehearsed. Vanessa wore a silk scarf, knotted just so, and Brian looked thinner. He hugged me at the door a beat too long. She barely touched me. "I made pot roast," I said. "Figured you'd be tired of tiny French portions." We sat around the kitchen table, same chairs Elliot had refinished 20 years ago. Vanessa complimented the meal, the lighting, the quaint comfort of my house. Then she started talking. Paris had been lovely. Networking had gone well. There were investment opportunities to consider now. "If we want to grow, we have to think big," she said, slicing into her food with clean, deliberate motions. Then casually, as if it had just occurred to her, "Have you ever thought about selling this place, Maren? It's a lot for one person. All these stairs, all this land." Brian didn't look up. He pushed a carrot around his plate like he didn't want to be part of any of it. "I manage fine," I said. My voice stayed even. "Of course," she said quickly, just thinking ahead. "These old houses, so much upkeep." After dinner, while I made coffee and brought out the pie, Vanessa excused herself. "Bathroom right." I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I walked upstairs. The hallway was quiet. She was standing near Elliot's old office, hand on the doorknob. "Oh," she said, startled. "Wrong floor. I was looking for the bathroom." Silly me. I didn't speak, just gestured to the stairs. She walked past me too quickly. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed with the notebook in my lap and made another entry. 3 weeks ago, she asked if I'd ever had issues remembering appointments. 2 weeks ago, she asked for a copy of the property tax bill just to help with paperwork. Tonight, she stood outside Elliot's office like she belonged there. The pattern wasn't subtle anymore. It was sharpening. And somewhere under the surface, I could feel her getting ready to move. I asked Brian to come over, just him. He hesitated. "Vanessa and I don't keep secrets. I'm not asking you to hide anything I said. I just need to talk to my son." He showed up that afternoon, tense, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. He didn't sit, just hovered near the kitchen doorway, like he was already half gone. I set the manila folder on the table. Didn't say a word. Let him open it himself. Photos. Marriage records. The letter from Elliot. Names. Timelines. 2 men who had once called her wife. He flipped through them quickly, then again, slower. His color drained. "This could be anyone," he said. "It isn't. You don't know that." I slid a piece of paper toward him. 2 names, 2 numbers. "Call them." He stood. "You've been digging through her past, spying." "No," I said calmly. "Your father did. Because he was afraid you wouldn't believe him unless the evidence was too loud to ignore. Brian shook his head, backing away. You're trying to ruin my marriage. I'm trying to save my son. He didn't answer. Just turned and walked out. I didn't follow. That night I didn't sleep. I left the hallway light on. Left my phone on the charger screen facing up. At 1:13 a.m., it rang. Mom. His voice was small. I'm here. I called them. I waited. She did it, Mom. She married them both. Sold their families' homes, took everything. She even used the same story about care homes' business investments. I didn't believe it until I heard their voices. They didn't sound angry. Just tired. He paused. Everything Dad found, he was right. I didn't say I told you. I didn't say anything. Brian's voice broke. She asked me about the deed last week. She said I should start thinking ahead. I closed my eyes. We can still stop her, I said. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do, I said. I reached for the letter from Elliot, still folded neatly in the drawer. He'd written something else Brian hadn't seen. By the time Brian got home, Vanessa was already packing. He told me later how it started. Soft questions, not accusations. Where did you say you went to college again? What year did you say your last name changed? Why are there credit cards in my name I don't remember signing for? She didn't flinch at first, just kept folding clothes and humming. Then he mentioned the names Stanley Wright, George Murphy. Her hand froze midair. She turned on him fast. You've been talking to her, she spat. That woman, your mother, she's poisoning you. She just showed me what Dad found, Brian said. That's when she lost it. You're weak, she hissed. Just like him. Just like all of them. You think you can handle me? You can't even pay your own credit card bills. She slammed the suitcase shut. He tried to stop her, but she was gone before sunrise. He called me from the porch. She took her passport. And mine. I didn't wait. I called Peter, the private investigator Elliot had trusted. He didn't hesitate. Within an hour, he'd traced 3 cash withdrawals and 1 flagged one-way ticket out of Raleigh-Durham. She's heading for the gate, he said. We're alerting airport police now. I drove to the terminal in silence. Parked, where Peter told me. Waited just past security behind a row of vending machines. Vanessa appeared minutes later, hair-perfect sunglasses on rolling 2 bags. Her coat was sharp, her pace steady. She looked like any other traveler, confident, busy, important, until a plainclothes officer stepped in front of her. Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions. She smiled. Is something wrong? Can we see your ID? The second officer flanked her. Her eyes darted left. Then she saw me. I didn't move. Her face twisted, rage, disbelief, something close to fear. You, she mouthed. I kept my arms crossed. She bolted. Got 6 steps before they tackled her beside a rental kiosk. Fake ID, $12,000 in cash. 3 burner phones, 1 passport under another name. They cuffed her. She screamed the whole time. I didn't say a word, just walked back to my car and called Brian. The headline said her name was Linda Marsh. Fraud across state lines, identity theft, elder exploitation. Charges in Arizona, North Carolina, and Florida. The prosecutor called it one of the most methodical cons they'd ever seen. She took a plea deal, 12 years in federal prison. I didn't feel triumphant, just quiet. Like the dust had finally settled after a long, choking storm. Brian came to my door with 2 duffel bags and a face that had aged 10 years in 10 weeks. Can I stay a while? He asked. I stepped aside. Of course. He moved into his old room. The football trophies were still on the shelves. I hadn't had the heart to take them down. He didn't talk much that first week. But I heard him in the garage once opening drawers, standing at Elliot's workbench, flipping through the journal. He didn't cry. Not that I saw. A month passed. Then one Saturday morning, a low rumble pulled me to the front window. Tom's truck turned into the driveway, and behind it, on a flatbed, was the Shelby. Same deep burgundy. Same chrome lines. Same sound Elliot had loved. Tom stepped down and unstrapped the car slowly, reverently. "She belongs here," he said simply. Brian came out onto the porch as Tom backed the Shelby down. He stood there, frozen hands at his sides. "I sold it," he whispered. "For a plane ticket." Neither of us answered. Tom held out the keys. "Elliot built this for you, for both of you, and I was just its keeper." I took them gently. The weight of them surprised me. Brian stepped forward. He ran his hand along the hood like he was touching a ghost. I didn't say a word. Just turned, walked to the garage, and opened the door wide. The oil stain was still there, dark, familiar, waiting. Tom guided the car in. It rolled easily like it remembered the space. Brian stood beside me as the engine cut off. The silence afterward felt full, not empty. "Teach me," he said quietly. I looked at the workbench. Tomorrow. The air smelled like cut grass and warm pavement spring settling in for good. I handed Brian a cup of coffee and opened the garage. He was already holding the journal. Pages flagged corners worn from weeks of flipping back and forth. "Check the oil first," he said, pointing. I popped the hood. He handed me the dipstick, and I followed the steps, slow, deliberate, just like Elliot wrote. Next came the belts, then the battery terminals. He read aloud, and I followed. By the time we finished the checklist, my hands weren't shaking anymore. Neither were his. He adjusted the mirror while I got in behind the wheel. "You sure?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just turned the key. The Shelby roared deep and familiar, a sound that once belonged to Elliot, then was stolen, now returned. I backed it out carefully, Brian watching every movement like he was memorizing the rhythm. We pulled onto the street. The same road where he'd once stood, not meeting my eyes, telling me the car was gone. Now he sat beside me, quieter, older, different. I eased through the neighborhood, people mowing lawns, kids on bikes, life going on. At the stoplight, I didn't hesitate. I turned left. The Shelby moved like it had been waiting for this drive. Each turn smoother than the last. Each gear shift lighter. Brian reached over and turned the page in the journal. Dad wrote, "Don't let her be just a memory." We didn't speak again for a while. We didn't have to. When we pulled back into the driveway, the sky had turned soft with late light. I parked the car in its spot, shut off the engine, and looked over at him. He smiled without saying anything. Inside the house, the windows were open. The air smelled like something baking. I didn't remember turning on the oven, but something about it felt right. Like motion again, like breath, like the kind of quiet that isn't lonely anymore.